Welcome back to Garden Talk, brought to you by the Penn State Erie County Extension Master Gardeners. I'm your co-host for today, Mike Bailey, and Ellen DePlacido is with me, I believe. Ellen, are you there?
I am. Good morning, Mike.
Hey, this time we're going to jump onto a different topic, right? And
Right.
and this is a topic that I kind of enjoy because there's a lot of really neat science, okay, in this particular component,
The
and
science man.
and there's a lot of misunderstandings, okay, amongst a lot of gardeners about some of the things that fit into this category. And we're talking about pollination, and we're going to spend a couple of different sessions, on this particular topic. And we always kind of wonder, where do you start with this topic? So we decided to just kind of go with a listing of a variety of ideas that we think might be of interest to our listeners, and then we'll go back and kind of tie them together after we do a number of those.
Okay.
We think that you'll find these points that will give you that they'll give you an appreciation of the amount of time that we're going to spend on this particular topic. So, but and some of the points may seem kind of elementary, but Ellen and I have learned by talking to people that there's some misunderstandings at that elementary level, and that there's a wide range of understandings, okay, on the topic. So we wanted to clarify a few of these ideas. So bear with us
Okay.
as we go through this, okay? So Ellen, what else you got?
Well, first of all, we want to just make a statement that the purpose of the flower is the seed. Okay. Flowers are pretty, but the purpose of that flower is the seed. The primary goal of all living things is reproduction. That's continuing your existence or continuing the existence of their species. And pollination captures that goal. So the seeds that are created through the process of pollination accomplish that goal. The seeds contain all the genetic material that's needed for the development of a new plant, half from the female component and half from the male component. Okay?
Yep, yep. And I like that statement. The purpose of the flower is the seed. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
nice and easy to remember, and
Right.
really it kind of gives people kind of an understanding in a nutshell. But when we talk about this pollination, we talk about, pollen, and then the female component, the ovule. That one grain of pollen, okay, joins
Mm-hmm.
with the female ovule in that plant to generate a single seed. All right. This is all that's needed for the development of a new plant, that single seed. Now, think about it for a moment, okay? Think about the number of seeds in some of the fruit that we eat. Look at a cucumber, or even look at a tomato, or a squash. One grain of pollen and one ovule, one seed. But those things got hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
seeds inside of them. So, just think of how much pollen was needed to be brought to, that particular, the female component of the flower in order for this to develop. So,
Mm-hmm.
that flower is the focus of quite a bit of activity, isn't it?
It is, right. On some plants, the female and male components are contained in the same flower, and these would be called a complete flower. In other words, there's the male component and the female component in one flower. However, some other plants have two different kinds of flowers, one that contains the female part and one that contains the male component. Okay? And those could be on the same plant, like we said. But some other species of plants have separate female and male plants. Okay? A species has separate female and male plants. So, what about that, Mike?
Well, a few comments about those vegetable plants that have, male and female flowers. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
these are typically in that grouping of plants called the cucurbits.
Mm-hmm.
Those vining crops, the cucumbers, the squash, the melons, etc. And when these plants initially start to bloom, a lot of gardeners will say, "Well, I'm not getting any fruit." Well, primarily because when those plants start to bloom, they're putting out male flowers initially. And why the plants do that, I've never really seen that in the literature. But in essence, to me, it means it's an effort on the part of the plants to get the pollinators to start to visit that particular plant and pick up some pollen and some nectar. And because the plant really doesn't want to waste a lot of energy on creating female blossoms until the pollinators are used to coming around. So you may get, 10 to 20 male blossoms before you see any of the female blossoms appear on the plants. Now, how do you tell the difference? Well, let's use a zucchini for an example. Because that's the bigger plant and it's easiest to see. The female blossoms have a miniature fruit, if you will, directly behind the blossom on the stem
Mm-hmm.
of that
Mm-hmm.
of that flower, whereas
Mm-hmm.
the male blossom does not have that. So
Mm-hmm.
that is the difference between the two, and you'll see it on
Mm-hmm.
your cucumbers, and you'll see it on your melons, and you'll see it on your squash, etc., and stuff like that. So, uh,
Oh,
you know, so
okay.
it, you know, so you know, Mother Nature has a plan. She'll take
Uh-huh.
care of the things. But those blossoms on these plants, Ellen, they don't last for very long, do they?
No, they only last about 4 to 6 hours. So pollination has a really short window. And if you have a lack of adequate pollination, you may have what we call poor pollination, where the female fruit is just going to wither up, or it's going to be misshapen. If you've seen the zucchini and the summer squash that kind of look strange, it's probably because of poor pollination. And this is inevitable because all female flowers will not be pollinated because the weather plays such a major role in whether or not pollinators are available to actually help pollinate that
Right.
plant.
And it's the
Hmm.
pollination and the resulting fertilization of that ovule, uh, of that with that pollen cell. That's what stimulates the growth of the ovary around that fruit, around those
Hmm.
seeds. Okay,
Hmm.
the fruit, which is the fruit part of the plant that we consume.
Hmm.
Minimal pollination can result, like you said, that misshaped fruit. As you already mentioned. So, it's kind of interesting as to how this whole works. Some people will call and say, "Well, my fruit is kind of withering up." Well, that's because maybe they blossomed on a rainy day and there wasn't a lot of pollinators around, etc.
Hmm.
Just be patient. You'll get more female blossoms, and there'll be adequate pollination, and you will get some fruit. Ellen, it looks like we've used up most of our time for today. We're going to pick up on this
Okay.
very same topic again next time around. Thank you now.
All right. Okay.